20,000. That's how many new voters have registered in Kenya 2 weeks after the IEBC relaunched its national voter registration drive. Out of a target of 6.3 million, barely a whisper of participation, especially from Gen Z, the generation that once flooded the streets, shook parliament, and forced a government to back down. The same youth who demanded justice in 2024 are now ghosting the ballot in 2025. So, what happened? Why are Kenya's most vocal citizens suddenly silent where it matters most?
Kazi yao ni kutukana William Ruto. Kazi yao ni matusi.
You can't be partyless, voiceless, leaderless and voteless.
Tu mambo ya kuongea barabarani na huna mpango yoyote.
The IEBC's continuous voter registration drive, launched on September 29th, was meant to reawaken civic energy ahead of 2027. Erastus Ethekon, the commission's chairperson, called it "Your Ear, Your Voice." But across Kenya, registration centers are deserted.
We registered zero. We didn't register anybody yesterday.
Lamu, just one person showed up. Nyamira, 18 people. Tharaka Nithi, less than 30. And the numbers are consistent. Millions of eligible young Kenyans aren't even showing interest. Despite the IEBC's public appeals, even its voter education director Joyce Ekwam pleading for the youth to leave social media and show up, Gen Z seems to have already decided Kenya's democracy is not worth their queue. Let us start with the obvious. You can't register without a national ID, and that's where the first wall appears. For many young Kenyans turning 18, getting an ID feels like applying for a visa to Mars. Long queues, lost forms, endless bureaucracy, and sometimes, as critics like Kivutha Kibwana put it, deliberate suppression of youth participation.
And then there's this fallacy that keeps being played that not many Kenyan young people are coming out to register. Let me tell you, what we are going through is we have just relaunched continuous voter registration. It is not the enhanced voter registration. Continuous simply means that for almost a year plus, we've not been having registration at the various registration centers. If you look at the statistics of the last times when we had the continuous voter registration, which is supposed to be an everyday event, IEBC was recording even 3 people in a week in a county. 3 people. Now if you're telling me they're recording 7,000 in a week, then it means to me, as compared to the previous statistics, more and more Kenyans are willing. What we need to be asking of IEBC at this particular point, having put a pause.
In 2022, up to 4 million young Kenyans couldn't vote because they lacked IDs. Today, that bottleneck remains. And for those who have IDs, registration is restricted to 291 constituency offices, open weekdays only. Most rural youths can't afford the trip, let alone the time off work. Even Nairobi MP James Gakuya admits economic and logistical barriers are keeping youth away from democracy. But even for those who can register, the question remains, why bother? Kenya's post-2022 political hangover still lingers. Accusations of rigging, broken promises, and a hollowed-out IEBC have poisoned public trust. The commission itself was unconstituted for nearly 3 years, leaving many to wonder if it can even manage 2027. Activists like Okia Omtata call it a design to lock Gen Z out, linking the chaos in ID registration to broader political manipulation. Then there is perception, perhaps the deadliest factor. To Gen Z, elections are theater. The script is written long before the curtain rises. One user on X put it bluntly, Why queue to validate a rigged show? Former Senator Gloria Oroba adds weight. IEBC has done nothing to make young people feel included. They are treated like spectators in their own democracy. And when cynicism becomes culture, registration becomes irrelevant. Here's the paradox. The same generation that brought down a finance bill with hashtags and courage now shrugs at voter registration. In 2024, Gen Z proved their collective might, marching, organizing, mobilizing online in hours. Yet in 2025, that same digital fire has cooled. Analysts call it the protest paradox. Protests give instant feedback. A minister resigns, a bill collapses, a hashtag trends. But elections, they take patience, bureaucracy, endurance. And to Gen Z, that feels outdated, like dial-up internet in a 5G world. IEBC messaging hasn't helped either. Budget cuts worth over 870 million Kenyan shillings have crippled the voter registration, outreach and mobilization. Roadshows are gone, campus drives cancelled. Instead, IEBC leans on traditional media, radio and posters to reach a digital generation that lives on TikTok and Telegram.
Registration, voters. We are guided also by the Data Protection Act.
Professor XN Iraki says it plainly. If you want to reach Gen Z, speak their language. Memes, music, digital storytelling. But IEBC still runs on a dialogue energy in a digital republic. Without a modern approach, online registration, social engagement, or youth partnerships, Gen Z simply scrolls past democracy. And then the reality, economic survival. With unemployment hovering near 35% for youth, the average Kenyan aged 20 to 30 years is hustling, not registering.
For the longest time on voter registration, and now resumed it. They should have not started with continuous voter registration. They should have immediately launched an enhanced voter registration drive that goes deep into the villages, because the continuous voter registration is done at the constituency manager's office, which in some locations, the distances involved, you are asking someone to move or even to travel more than even 40 kilometers to access that constituency voter registration center. But in enhanced voter registration, IEBC will be at a local shop, will be at a local church, will come to even a funeral, a wedding, to engage with the people at the grassroots level to register them. Then you will be able to say, these numbers are not adding up or they're adding up.
The government's new Nyota Fund, marketed as empowerment, launched the same week as the voter drive. Critics like Babu Owino call it strategic distraction, claiming it trades empowerment for loyalty. Gen Z sees it differently. Politics is noise, while rent is real. In Lamu, where only one person registered, an 18-year-old fisherman summed it up. Ballots don't buy bread. That line might just define a generation. If the trend continues, Kenya could enter 2027 with the youngest, most vocal generation silenced by choice. That silence would reshape national politics for years. A democracy without youth is a democracy on borrowed time. Former Interior Minister Fred Matiang'i warned recently, registering to vote is not a favor to the system. It is a test of civic maturity. Gen Z proved they can organize revolutions. The next test? Institutionalizing that energy through the ballot. Otherwise, they risk becoming the most powerful generation that never used its power. Gen Z, your protest was loud enough to change laws, but the ballot is where you change history. The question is, will you show up? Newsroom, Maisha TV, Bushabi Jr.